Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
It's Eugene and
Anne-Marie.
And we're here with Half Awake, Fully Caffeinated, episode 10. Oh my God. We finally made more episodes than we have listeners. Oh, the baby. Anyways, thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
This is a big episode, I'm assuming.
Sure,
I don't
yeah.
know if 10 is big or not, or if it's just like you've hit a number.
We've hit double digits.
We have hit double digits.
Yeah.
Which means we're not slowing down. I'm just kidding. We did slow down. I was out of town last week, so we missed one, and now we're no longer an episode ahead like we were before.
Yeah.
But we have 2 coffee topics and 2 non-coffee topics.
Yes.
And one of those coffee topics is about why caffeine makes, or not caffeine, but coffee makes you go poo-poo. And then the other one is Bebop jazz.
Yeah.
Period. Like there wasn't really any other question. It was just Bebop jazz.
Yeah. And then my questions were just another invention that took a long time to come to be, or other inventions, and then also common mistakes of coffee brewing at home.
Common mistakes.
Common mistakes.
All right. I think you can go first because I'm currently a little stuffed up in recovering. I don't even know if I'm recovering. I think I'm still in the midst of a valiant battle against whatever is currently attacking my body.
Do we want coffee or not coffee first?
I think you get to choose. Okay. Although I have this really cute new mug that I have had the patience to be able to bring in here.
You didn't see me, but I just rolled my eyes aggressively.
You get what you deserve.
I know. Okay. I'm gonna go get the bell. I keep running away, sorry.
Ah, yes, the bell.
The bell.
We're gonna remember to bring it out the first
Earlier.
time.
Yeah.
Next time. Timer. 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna do the coffee one.
And starting.
All right, the common mistakes of home brewing or brewing coffee. Yes. So, honestly, you can mess up at any step of the way, which is super fun and exciting, the whole process. The biggest thing that is going to be impacting your coffee is your water, which we have discussed in the previous episode.
Of course.
Would recommend going and watching that because I don't want to spew all of that information out again. But your water needs to be filtered to a certain extent, as well as the temperature of the water. You don't want it boiling hot or too cold. You want it to be somewhere between 195 and 205.
And if you wanted to review that was on episode 5. So halfway here.
Hey, we're halfway there. And we're not caffeinated.
We're halfway there.
Anyway, so another consideration for when you're brewing coffee at home is, this is my personal opinion, but also probably coffee people's opinions as well, but the timing in which you make your coffee is very important. A 3-minute pour over is going to taste much better than a 5-minute pour over.
Or a 2-minute.
Or a 2-minute pour over. So getting a timer is actually a really important part of making a good brew at home, as well as we do our pour overs here at the Beanyard with weight rather than mass.
Volumetric versus.
Thank you. Volume rather than mass. Yeah. This is how I remember it for some reason. Volume versus mass. And that's better. That's good. I like it.
It's a little bit more precise.
Yeah.
Volume can result in different types of coffee. And I would honestly say you can get a coffee that tastes 90% as good as it could be with volume. Like, it's definitely possible.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're that person that strives for excellence, if you're a type A person that wants nothing but the best, you should be using mass. You should be weighing your coffee instead of tablespooning it out of a bag pre-ground.
Yes, yes, definitely. You'll want to have whole beans and then grind them just before brewing. It'll improve the quality of it. muchly so.
And we have talked about that one, I think, before. Maybe like so. Kind of skirted briefly, by it, but it's gases. If you grind your coffee too soon, all the gases disappear, and then it's just kind of stale and doesn't have a lot of beautiful flavors in it.
Yeah. And this is specifically for pour-overs as well.
This is specifically for all coffee.
I mean, like, yes, but like what I'm describing with the time and all of that. Thank you for covering.
And
so yeah, with that, that's how you would. Those are the key things to pay attention to when brewing at home. Obviously, if you're using just like a coffee maker and hitting the one button, there's not really that much control that you'll get. But if you're doing pour-overs for yourself at home to make a delicious, yummy coffee, time, water, temperature, basically everything that goes into the pour-over is something that needs to have a certain amount of your control put into it to make it better.
Yeah. And if you do not have a grinder at home, don't worry. I would just say make sure that when you go to the coffee shop, like buy the coffee at the coffee shop versus buying pre-ground at a store. Because if you buy pre-ground at a store, you have no idea how long that's been pre-ground for. Well, actually, you probably do. You just see the roasting date, and it was ground probably a day or two after that date. So make sure that you keep an eye on that.
Boom.
Boom. 4 minutes done already. Okay, we'll keep going with coffee. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Bebop.
Bebop?
Bebop jazz.
Bebop jazz.
Bebop jazz. Bebop. So I don't know why you gave me a bebop jazz, like this of all things, but I'm assuming it's because you might have a little bit of information about bebop jazz as well.
I've just been really into it. So we're gonna maybe edit that bit out.
We're gonna edit that bit out. So bebop jazz.
Bebop jazz.
I'm assuming you chose this topic because it's something that you have interest in.
Yes, I also just think it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. All right, so calling it bebop jazz is kind of like calling chai tea. It's calling it TT.
Well,
although bebop jazz isn't really jazz. It's just like you call it bebop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you call it bebop jazz.
I know because you didn't know what bebop was.
Did I not know what bebop was?
You looked very confused when I said bebop.
Could have been anything because there's a TV show called Cowboy Bebop.
See?
And there's bebop jazz.
Exactly. That's why I clarified.
Clarification is
You're
nice.
welcome.
So bebop jazz, we're going to go into history a little bit first. Bebop jazz is another form of rebellion. Again, somehow we can kind of keep coming back to this, like we've created this musical instrument in rebellion. But bebop jazz was created in rebellion to swing. Because swing was a commercialized music type. And because of that, during the time that bebop jazz was made, which was in the 30s and 40s, because it was commercialized, African American musicians either had a really hard time being able to play in swing, or they wouldn't be able to watch swing or listen to swing and participate in swing, which is mostly about dancing and enjoying and all that kind of stuff. And then along with that, it was a pull away from commercialization and trying to create a true form of artistic expression through music. And the way that they did this was that they wanted to make it so impossibly difficult for you to do this in a swing unit, which it sounds wrong saying that, but doing it in a swing band by throwing in massive amounts of improvisation, playing at like blistering speeds, and just in general making it really difficult to recreate what they're doing. And so this is how bebop jazz was made, was because it was a big old middle finger to the 1930s and 40s American music scene, which had taken music that was also created by African Americans and said, we like this so we're going to make this ours, but you can't be a part of it anymore. And so then, African American musicians said, okay, fine, well, we're gonna make something better.
Even cooler.
And even cooler, and you're never gonna be able to play it because you have no rhythm.
I'm gonna make a really bad joke right now that you're not gonna recognize, but we both did actually. It's cool because cool was the antonym to bebop.
Well, yeah, because cool came from bebop.
Exactly.
Like, so terms like hip, cool.
Like you're not, but like cool jazz is a style of jazz. Like bebop is. Cool came from bebop, and so we made a joke, and I've over-explained it. Carry on.
Jesus. Anyways, so you know that's bebop is that usually it's not played in places where you can dance because you're not supposed to dance to bebop. You're supposed to sit the fuck down and listen and legitimately immerse yourself in everything that's happening. And in bebop, a lot of the times is you're gonna have like solos that are just like blistering and like crazy and all over the place. And those are like, that's kind of part of bebop is that the musicians get the opportunity to really showcase who they are and showcase their expressions. I find bebop to be very exciting and very cool.
I love bebop.
I personally can't listen to it because I'm a dancer kind of person, but I respect everything behind bebop.
Yes.
And I think that bebop deserves everything it ever made and ever will make in the future.
I love bebop, but I have to be in the right mood for it. Because if I want to,
if you want to go bam 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 bam,
you can't do that to like.
No.
That's my impression of bebop, right there.
Bebop, like a good like children-friendly movie. I think it's Soul on Disney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've never seen
that. That's a
that.
really good example of like,
Oh really?
A bebop musician.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love
Very
that.
cool. All right, next up, Inventions.
Inventions. Okay. So I had a hard time finding something that was as historically tumultuous as the
Zippers was awesome.
Zippers
I
was
was not
amazing.
expecting
Yeah,
that,
no,
to be
me neither. The closest thing I found was the Phillips head screw and screwdriver. So the screw thread, that we all know of has been around since like 400 BCE, like forever. It was originally invented for some sort of water system. I did not do the research into what that was, but something to do with the water to get it to, anyway, water. And then in 1906, a man in Canada named something Robertson came up with the Robertson screw. I didn't write down his first name.
Robertson screw.
So Canada has a whole ass different screw than America that is just as popular as the Phillips head and flathead screwdriver, and it's called the Robertson screw, and it's a square.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like those ones.
Yeah, and the reason why they're awesome is because it is a first of all, you don't have this struggle of like slipping when you're using a flathead.
It doesn't strip.
It doesn't strip. It doesn't slip. And then I forgot what it's called, but where it like you get to a certain point of the torque and it doesn't want to turn anymore. You can do more than a flathead can, if that makes sense. Like you can twist it more without the pushback.
I mean, it's kind of, you don't want to, but yes, I get what you're saying.
But like to the extent where you want to. Anywho.
You can over torque it.
You can. Pros and cons to both. Anyway, the Phillips head screwdriver, so that is all in Canada, and General Motors wanted to use it, and Canada, the dude that invented it was like, no.
It's like, no.
And so America was like, screw you, invented the Phillips head. And that was in 1934, so almost 30 years after the Robertson screw was invented.
Amazing.
By Harry F. Phillips, who patented the design, hence Phillips head.
Yes.
Yeah. And was, Phillips was invented by John P. Thompson under the direction of Henry F. Phillips. That's where, okay.
Most great inventions come from somebody that invented it for the person that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they had the money.
And grip slippage is the word that we're looking for. And these screws were mostly invented or created for the purpose of automobiles, like like vehicles and stuff, because flathead screws were not secure enough. They were a pain in the ass to use, honestly, in the factory. It reduced the amount of time, like Phillips head screwdrivers. So the first cars that were invented with the Phillips head screwdrivers, it cost them about $2.30 less per vehicle to use Phillips head over flathead, and those were when they were like $350 vehicles. So
that's a meaningful amount.
It's a meaningful amount of money and time in that aspect.
And then bolts and nuts came around, I'm assuming.
And then bolts and nuts. I didn't do any research into bolts and nuts
because you don't see Phillips head in anything other than like trim pieces in cars now.
True.
If you have bolts and nuts in it, like that's what you have in cars. So then now I'm interested in what bolts and nuts came from.
Are you gonna have me?
So 1930s is when we got a fucking Phillips head screwdriver, Phillips head, which I'm just imagining Henry J. Phillips looks like
he's going,
just this
okay,
cone-headed
and then
guy.
You do this.
And they're like, how it's a Phillips head. And they made a screw off of him. But I have to say, the Phillips head and also the flathead, grossly inefficient now.
Yes.
Compared to me. Now it's like you have the star screwdriver.
Oh yeah, and there's like a bajillion different types now that are so much better.
Yeah.
But back in the 1930s, that's not that long ago. I feel like in the history of screws, for the Phillips head to be invented.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest though, what an inefficient.
I know.
Like, this was life-changing for them.
Yes.
But it's like, you get a Phillips head screwdriver, there's no sizing for it. So it's like, you don't know that this is,
that was the other thing that is a benefit of the Phillips head. Well, we've gone over our time, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The Phillips head, you do not have to have a specific size because for the majority of it, because it is tapered.
Yeah.
You can use a large one or a small one and it'll still fit in. Whereas if you have the Robertson square, you need the same size square screwdriver.
But I will say, I'd rather that. And it's like, hey, you need a 2mm Robertson.
Right.
Versus, here's a Phillips screwdriver.
It'll fit mostly.
It'll fit it. And then you sit there and you strip it.
You strip it. Yeah, it's true.
Strip it and then you're screwed. And then you're sitting there with... And then you're sitting there with like an impact driver, like hammering away, hoping to God that this thing will come out.
Yeah. Pros and cons.
As someone who's actually worked on a vehicle, there are no screws on an engine.
There were in the 30s, and that's
there
what
were
I
in
was
the 30s.
researching.
But to be completely honest, there are no screws anymore because Phillips screws are useless. All right, let's talk caffeine poo.
Oh yeah.
Coffee poo.
Coffee poo.
Coffee poo. Coffee caca. So, interesting enough, the effect that coffee has on someone's bowels can differ person to person. And obviously it's based on your sensitivity to caffeine. So we talked about this. Why does caffeine make you, like, what is caffeine? How does it work? What does it do? So we talked about adenosine. And because adenosine is just kind of like in your body, like, hey bro, it's time to go to bed. But then it gets to like the spot where like it gets its microphone into the brain and says, tell you to go to bed. It gets there and it's like caffeine's there. It's like, no sleep.
Saw, dude.
It's like, you're gonna go fuck yourself. Okay. And so adenosine, when it connects to its receptor, if it's able to, when caffeine's not there, it releases it's just a signal. It's like, hey, let's chill, let's relax. So stop releasing dopamine, stop producing norepinephrine. These are two things that are very important to a conversation. And it just kind of like slows the blood flow down and your body just kind of just gets there. When you have caffeine, it gets there and it's like, we're awake now. And it's like, release the dopamine because we want to feel good. Release the norepinephrine because we want to feel good, but also anxious at the same time.
Yeah.
And let's fucking go.
I like it.
So it just tells the body and signals it to be like, hey, release these things. And so dopamine comes in, norepinephrine comes in, and dopamine obviously is like the feel-good hormone, but it's all about not just feeling good, but it helps with like focus, and it helps with energy, and it helps with emotional like things as well. And then norepinephrine comes in, and it's like fight or flight, where it's like, okay, we're gonna be flighting and fighting all over. We're not sure what we're fighting or fighting,
but we're ready.
But we're ready.
Okay.
And because these things are coursing through your body, all of the other receptors in your body and like your CNS is being signaled to release the blood. So open the floodgates of blood. Okay. And so, yeah, your heart rate kind of increases and your blood flow just starts going. And all of that results to more blood flow going into your area of digestion and just like kickstarting everything, and then being like, okay, time to pee, time to poo, time to do all of those. And so it's a response, like it's a neural level response in your brain to adenosine being blocked that just makes its way through everything.
Interesting.
And so there's other things that happen obviously with caffeine, but like that's the reason why you need to poop, is that your blood flow starts up and you just kind of go.
And everything's just like, okay.
And so there is, again, like some people are a lot more sensitive to this and some people aren't. Like my wife mentioned to me, she's like, I can smell it and I'm ready to go. While as for me, it's like I was ready to go when I woke up. So like it does nothing to me. Like I've already done all of my business. So like coffee comes around and it's like, okay,
and
great.
Okay.
But yeah, if you tend to have issues with your steady flow, I would recommend trying coffee. Other diuretics include alcohol and poisons, which, you know, it's funny. I think we've had a couple conversations about how caffeine is technically a poison, but that hasn't really come up in my research yet.
I've heard it before, but I don't trust the sources that I've heard it from.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust it either.
Yeah.
I would say though is that coffee does provide a lot of caffeine, and caffeine is really what's pushing the poo-poo.
The poo-poo.
The poo-poo.
I see.
Also, you know, we have the polyphenols, which we've talked about. Polyphenols open up blood vessel walls as well, and that also contributes as well.
Cool.
But
that makes sense.
Coffee makes you
Adenosine.
Adenosine is the sleepy guy.
I'm fascinated by adenosine.
Adenosine is just like, hey, man, you want to count some sheep?
Hey, okay.
And then dopamine's like, I love being alive.
Okay.
And then norepinephrine is just like, there's something out there.
I don't know what it is, guys.
We don't know what it is.
Something's gonna happen.
We don't know what it's gonna do.
We're gonna be ready.
There, and it's out there, and it's coming, and you're just like, norepinephrine, chill, bro.
Chill. He's like, no.
And it's like, no.
Norepinephrine.
Also, the other things are like, coffee also does not affect certain people with caffeine in the same way, because maybe there's not a lot of adenosine inside their body. So they've never actually been tired, which is great for them. And then your body's ability to manage hormones is also affected.
Fascinating.
Fascinating.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about topics for next time.
Yes. I have one question that I wrote down.
You have one question that you wrote down?
Well, I mean, I have question. I just specifically wrote one down, and then I found it the other day, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a good question.
Das is a good question.
Das ist good. Oh, yeah. I remember now.
Okay. All right. How about you give me Das is a good question? Oh, I actually did write it down. It was sitting in there. All right.
Okay, my non-coffee question is, what was the job of a hermit?
I think we had a conversation about this.
Yeah, we did, and you didn't believe me that hermits were a profession. So now you're gonna...
In the English sense.
Well, you'll see.
Okay.
And then coffee question. Actually, do you have a question for me yet?
No.
Okay, cool. I don't have a coffee question, so can we...
Okay, coffee question. All right, so question from me. I'm just going to keep sending you down the threading of screws and stuff.
Okay.
I want to know about bolts and nuts. Where the fuck did they come from? And when did they come around? And how revolutionary that must have been to have bolts and nuts. And then an Allen wrench and all of these random tools that I probably take for granted.
Such a big old tool nerd at the end of this.
Honestly, I hope to God, yes.
Yeah,
I do.
I'll know so much.
Reading.
Cool.
The tool nerd.
The tool nerd.
The tool nerd.
And then coffee question. Head empty. I'm gonna drink some more coffee. Maybe it'll
Drink
give
some more
me
coffee.
some more inspiration.
You know what? I'm taking off the strips. Taking off bolts. Taking off bolts and threads. What is the most important personal financial skill you wish you knew or that you know currently and want other people to know? And why?
Okay, that's a big question for me. Important financial skill?
Yes. Now we're going into money. We're not going to just stay with science and inventions.
I like it. Okay. I would like to know, for my coffee question, I would like to know why in specialty coffee they put the elevation of the coffee on the bag and why that's, like, why do we care about that? Like, I don't care about the elevation that my bottle of Coca-Cola was.
Well, it's because there's
was
no natural
grown
ingredients
at.
in Coca-Cola.
You know what I mean?
That's a great question. I appreciate that. Okay. You know what? I want to know how we got to the washed process with coffee.
Ooh.
Like, how did we go from I've picked this cherry, and now I'm going to wash it, which that's totally fine, like washing a cherry. That makes sense. But then now I'm going to peel the skin off, and then I'm going to peel off the fruit, and then I'm going to take this green bean and I'm going to roast it.
Yes. That's a great
And how did that process get created? And then honestly, like,
That's going to be a big...
the next question after that probably is going to be like, when did we figure out that we want to roast the coffee?
Yeah.
Like,
Coffee was one of the things that came up in the inventions that took a long time to...
oh, really?
Yeah, because it was... I mean, when it was invented and used, it was primarily for... not invented, sorry, but discovered and used primarily for a specific group of Muslim people that would drink it to stay awake during their nighttime.
Sentry duty?
No, like when they pray and they just sit and contemplate God, but they do it all night. Prayers, and I'm doing such a bad job of...
I mean, that sounds horrible.
No, like, they, like, you know how there's like Eid is a holiday and like things like that. It's like for the, like, there's a specific holiday in the Muslim religion that would require them to have way back in the day that had them stay up all night to be praying all night. That was part of the whole thing. And so that's when they would drink coffee. And then coffee houses became known for like being rebellion and non-workers.
Everything we do is part of rebellion, but then now it's just so tame.
It's so tame now, I know.
I'm not saying that we need to rebel.
I am.
I mean,
I am.
I'm not saying we have to rebel.
I am.
But it'd be cool to have something to rebel for.
Yes. Anywho, the history of coffee is also, it took a long time to get popular.
Very interesting. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining. Per usual, please do not hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, or send us some ideas of things that you'd like for us to discuss.
Please do.
Yes. All right, bye-bye.
Goodbye.